From the Sky News Centre, this is Paul Murray Live.
Thank you, Sherry. Happy Thursday. What a big and busy night I have for you this evening. Lots to debate. Can you know who you think winner and loser of the week is? Nigel Farage joins us a little bit later. In a second, I'll go through what Peter Dutton had to say in his budget and reply speech. It'll be written off as political. It'll be written off as not enough detail. No, it was a statement about values, and the values landed exactly where I think the bulk of the country is. We'll get to that in a moment. But the big news that excited a lot of people today, and I won't lie, me too. We are going to get not one but two debates between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Now, I'm also pleased to say that we have an exclusive for you at the start of this evening's program. In fact, we can cross live to the debate that has still been going on the internet thanks to AI for the past 4 years. This is the internet and what it thinks the debate will look like.
Now, some folks can gather around like adorable little ducklings who just discovered their own cute little flappy wappies. It's time to get serious, but still giggle now. We're here to discuss policies, ideas for our future cutie patooties out there. So think about it, my fine feathered friends, while we can enjoy some hilarious escapades from animated kiddos on TV now and then.
And speaking of falling down, Biden can barely stand upright without a teleprompter. The man needs more support than Hunter Biden after a night out with his laptop. Sad.
How good is that? I don't know how they do it, some computer somewhere. But since the 2020 election, they have just been debating back and forth. I think it's on Twitch, one of the social media platforms. No doubt the ones in real life will be even more entertaining and at times perhaps as incoherent. All right. Now, as you know, Jim Chalmers delivered too little too late, and Australians know it in his budget that he delivered just a couple of nights ago. We've gone through uphill and down dale, all of the details from the Goldberg walk, as if he was a boxer going in to fight a main event. Oh, they laid it on oh so thick. Well, tonight was the opportunity for the opposition to reply. Now, one of the great myths and misnomers about a budget and reply speech is that you're supposed to have all of the detail that the hundreds and hundreds of people in Treasury put together for the government of the day, when the reality is it's the leader, the MPs and their staff who are cobbling together what they think should be the response to the budget. But what the budget and reply speech has given every opposition leader for as long as we have all been watching this process, it gives them an opportunity to speak to the country uninterrupted for about 30 minutes. Now, if they give a major speech at the National Press Club, while that's televised, it's not the same as prime time. On Sky News, the ABC and lots of other places, he had the opportunity to meet Australia where it is right now. Because as I've told you for how many months now, Australians believe, in fact, half of Australians believe that we are headed in the wrong direction, that we are on the wrong track. Now, that blue line is the wrong track. The red line is the right track. It was very early last year where the right track just pipped the wrong track, but you can see where it's been for now the best part of a year at least. And this is a poll which comes out in the Turnbull Times. This is the data that The Guardian publishes. And it says that 50% of the country believes we're headed in the wrong direction. And that's where Peter Dutton knew that his challenge tonight, be there at an early election or if it goes full term, he'll get another chance next year. It's not just to present yourself as a credible Prime Minister, as a person who can deliver a speech, but it's also somebody who, as I say, understands where people are. And he delivered lots of hits on the existing budget, but he also had plenty of ideas about what would guide him as the Prime Minister of this country. And as a person who's been sitting here every single night with you, looking at how this government promised a big game and then just delivered nothing or went in the exact opposite direction, I thought Peter Dutton's opening was bang on.
Almost 2 years ago, Prime Minister Albanese was elected promising a reduction of $275 each year in your power prices, cheaper mortgages, and that you would be better off under a Labor government. All of those promises have been broken. Today, millions of Australians are struggling to pay their bills. Even going to the supermarket and petrol station has become stressful for so many.
Now, the government will say, well, we say all that stuff too. Yeah, but the government is in the position to do things like all of those excise taxes I've talked about, everything from the taxes on beer and alcohol and tobacco and petrol, that are the things the government could do today to make things better. And also, Peter Dutton quite correctly points out that this government is earning more revenue, well, taking more revenue than any government in recent memory. Yet their spending has also exponentially increased, which is why, if the revenue starts to dry up, we go into deficit, deep deficit. And even the Treasurer was saying that in this most recent budget. But are they going to make things worse with the decisions they have made in this budget? Understandably, Peter Dutton says yes, and who could disagree?
In my 22 years in Parliament, I've seen good and bad budgets, but the budget handed down on Tuesday night is one of the most irresponsible I've seen. The reason interest rates have gone up 12 times is because the government can't control its spending and because of its reckless energy policy. In 3 Labor budgets, the government has lifted spending by a staggering $315 billion, or $30,000 per Australian household.
Now, I was at a mate's place last week and I got the chance to have a chat to my mate's parents. Good people, loyal viewers of this program, they know who they are, shout out. But they were talking that they think that the number one issue in the country is the reality that people can't buy houses. And I've been thinking about it and ruminating about it ever since we had the conversation, because we have to have an actual conversation about something like housing. And obviously, a part of that process is the number of people who are being brought into the country each and every year. Put simply, if there aren't enough houses, but you keep adding more people, well then guess what? At the very bottom end of things, people end up being booted out of their houses, and yes, I'll be talking about that in laborious detail in a moment or two's time. But of course, at the normal and the middle end too, the houses that you want to purchase, you're unable to do so because someone with more money, potentially coming in from overseas, might be able to put up their hand and just blow you away. So I was relieved and intrigued to see that Peter Dutton tonight talked about housing and had some clear ideas in the first couple of years of him being Prime Minister, how it would be easier, ever so slightly but still, easier for the person you have in your family who you hope will be able to buy a house to actually have an even shot at buying one.
First, we will implement a 2-year ban on foreign investors and temporary residents purchasing existing homes in Australia. Yeah. Secondly, we will reduce the permanent migration program by 25% from 185,000 to 140,000 for the first 2 years in recognition of the urgency of the crisis. Third, we will reduce excessive numbers of foreign students studying at metropolitan universities to relieve stress on rental markets in our major cities.
Now again, compare and contrast the people in the government who say nothing to see here, there's no problem, or the only solution is that we have to take billions of dollars worth of taxpayers' money to go into housing, but that housing, of course, is social housing. Now, I fully support huge investment in social housing because literally the old public housing, the old Housing Commission, as people would remember, in places like New South Wales, the waiting list for it is 60,000 people. So we do need to build that. But for your kids or your grandkids, how are they going to buy a home? Now, I've just off the top of my head talked out loud about ideas that no doubt will be screamed at, but what governments can do is they can firstly take the number of bidders off the table who are competing with your kids at an auction. And we certainly know that there is an awful lot of money, billions of dollars in fact, that is being bidded up by people who are either representing somebody overseas or pretending that the kid here for uni is the one who can actually afford the unit that your kids or your grandkids should be able to have an even shot at. So good, he's levelling the playing field there. Also, crime. Now, there was a lot in his announcement tonight, and I think this was really interesting because he dealt with one of the great misconceptions of Peter Dutton, is that Peter Dutton doesn't get the problems that women face in this country. But also on top of that, he was able to, and of course that's rubbish and garbage, as he spoke about in his speech, his time both as a police officer, responding to domestic violence calls all the way through to the time that he was the Home Affairs Minister, coming up with ways to crack down on kiddie porn. He's always had this as a focus. It will be one of the key focuses of what he will take to an election, and should he become the Prime Minister, a key value, and that's why I say it's not about politics, it's about values, value that he would bring to leadership in this country. He also had a couple of very solid, very clear ideas that will rule a line under the types of behaviour that way too many people get involved with. Now, this is not a version of censoring the internet. It's about saying that people who post videos of their crimes in order to get infamy from their crimes should not be allowed to do so.
Australians are unsettled by crime on our streets, ruptures to our social cohesion and threats to our national security. The coalition government will provide much-needed leadership in tackling knife crime. We will work with states and territories to develop uniform knife laws across all jurisdictions, laws which will give police the powers to stop and search using detector wands like Queensland's Jack's Law. Recently, Molly Ticehurst, a 28-year-old mother from New South Wales, was murdered because her violent ex-partner was on bail. Our bail laws need to be tightened in this country. A coalition government will make it an offence to use mobile phones and computer networks to cause an intimate partner or family member fear for their personal safety, to track them using spyware or to engage in coercive behaviours. We will toughen the bail laws and apply to these new Commonwealth offences. There's been an uptick in young Australians committing crimes where they're filming and uploading their crimes to social media. The coalition government will make it an offence to post criminal acts online. Those convicted will be banned from using digital platforms and liable for up to 2 years imprisonment.
That stuff is really important, and that is the role that the federal government can play about the Telecommunications Act, about what you are allowed to do with devices. And at the moment, there are too many people who use their devices and their electronic devices to threaten, intimidate and frankly stalk their partners. Again, who in the country would have a problem if that became law? And while I hope the opportunity is that it's Peter Dutton and his government that would be able to introduce that law, if the government stole the idea word for word and did it tomorrow, I would congratulate them. And if nothing else in a political career, full of many highlights and many tough decisions, this would be a legitimate change for the better. As for the final pitch, the beginnings of an attempt to get the country back on the right track, because of course it's on the wrong track. This was his closing statement.
Are you better off today than you were 2 years ago? Do you feel safer or more secure than you did 2 years ago? When governments change, the country changes. Australians can't afford another 3 years of the Albanese Labor government.
Couldn't agree more. And let's be honest, even some of the most ardent supporters of left-wing politics would have to agree. We've had 12 interest rate rises since this bloke became the Prime Minister. We have seen how many things go exponentially through the roof despite the fact that their promise was that they were going to do something about cost of living. We saw this week that their response to cost of living was to spend billions of dollars in taxpayers' money to not actually improve anyone's life, but to buy them a slogan at an election. If this is a legitimate fight on values, it's going to be a close one. But I certainly believe that the Australian population, while it may change its views from time to time on social issues or the importance of environmental issues, where Peter Dutton was tonight is where Australians have always been, regardless of whether they have been here for many generations or they have just turned up last week. He didn't get into the concept of the fair go, but he did get into the idea about a fair Australia. I think this was a good speech. It was a speech about values. No doubt the bubble within the bubble within the bubble will have its issues, but who cares? They're the gatekeepers of a political generation a long time ago. For anyone else who actually saw the speech tonight, they would see a bloke who is more in sync with them than the Roosters, who are all just about their own power and their own mates in the current government. Meantime, the media, of course, was obsessed with the major announcement from the federal budget.
Every household, regardless of income, will receive $300 off their energy bills.
$300 energy rebates to everyone.
Every Australian household will save hundreds of dollars on their power bills.
Yay, it's $1,900 a year minus Yay. And of course, the reality here is that it's not $300 they're sending you as a cheque that you'll be able to go and spend on something you really need to spend it on. As Andrew Clennell explains, and I'm showing this every night because I want everyone to understand, it's not $300 that you get in your hand, it's not cash. It is $75 every 3 months that the taxpayer is going to pay to power companies to drop your bill. Now, it'll be interesting to know whether a sideline of that is that they're going to put on everyone's power bill. Thanks to the Albanese government, this bill is $75 less than it should have been. To which most people will go, uh-huh.
And you get 75 a quarter, all of us. You know, Gina Reinhardt gets it, Twiggy Forrest gets it, we all get it. Everyone watching gets it. And I think it just rolls pretty much straight onto your bill.
Yes, it does. And I'll get to the millionaire and billionaire side of this in a moment or two's time. But what is fascinating is some of the spin that the government tried to put on all of this, that all of this was really about helping people when it came to the cost of living, and Jim Chalmers was there on the ABC telling everyone and all the different post-budget interviews, oh, this is a great idea, this is going to change people's lives. No. And guess who actually ended up telling the truth, the secret, that the billions of dollars in taxpayers' money that will not change anyone's life, will not change anyone's life. Well, Chris Bowen is the one who's actually turned around and said what the real deal is in all of this. Because, you know, he's a genius playing three-dimensional chess. Okay. He actually turned around and admitted that the reason why this is happening is because they're going to use taxpayers' money to try to reduce inflation. Best case scenario, it'll be by 0.5%. But with inflation still well higher than 0.5% when it comes to the target range, it won't actually change the Reserve Bank's opinion about interest rates. So we're spending billions of dollars for this reason.
You do that by spreading it across as many bills as you can, and you do that effectively by spreading it to every energy bill in the country. You maximise the impact on inflation, which will help the Reserve Bank in their job, and we design this very carefully as to how it will maximise assistance to the Reserve Bank to ensure that they can do their job.
Best case scenario, this much help. But then, of course, this isn't for all time, which means presumably when it runs out in 12 months' time, this much goes back on top of whatever inflation apparently has slightly fallen back as a result of the policy. Again, it's billions of dollars so they have a slogan to go to an election with. Now, people who are low information voters, well, they may well end up fall for it because, you know, Labor's got slick ads and clever things and, you know, ooga booga music about any decision that is anything other than the government is magnificent. But the reality is that I think people's lived experience is going to be, you can tell me your slogan as many times as you want. My interest rates have gone up 12 times since this bloke became Prime Minister. 13 times. There was one just before the last election. People are having to find anywhere between $15 and $30, even more, $1,000 a year to pay off their homes. The idea that magically everything's okay because there might be one change in interest rates. Well, really, that's like, as I've said before, the python is currently squeezing you and you are the same colour as Ribena, like dark purple. Oh, but you're now mauve. You're still under the pump. And that's how people will view this budget. And also, another bit of spin that has not even lasted the week since the budget, which is, why does everyone have to get this? Why are all the people who could clearly afford their power bills, these are the people who demand we should spend $1 trillion or more on a transition to green energy because they don't notice the cost of transition that comes via their bills. We're talking about the rich and at times not so famous. Now, every time I say this, I have friends who say, hang on, stop bashing up the rich. Okay, certain rich people. But everyone in the country ends up getting the $75. But of course, for obvious reasons, people who, wouldn't even have $75 down the back of the couch, I'm sure they've got more than $100 back there. Well, apparently the reason why they needed it, despite the fact they've got swimming pools and tennis courts, the reason they need the same supplement as somebody living in a one-bedroom unit in the western suburbs of insert capital city was because of this.
First of all, I think these cost of living pressures go up and down the income scale. Yes, they fall disproportionately on the people on the lowest incomes and fixed incomes, and they are obviously our priority. But I think people are under the pump right around Australia.
So everyone needs it because everyone's under the pump, including the people who clearly, let's be honest, $75 every 3 months, they're not going to notice it. They don't even notice when a bill goes up by $1,000, but yet they all get it. People like Dick Smith have turned around and said, no, this place, we're going to donate all of this. Plenty of other significant Australians have also come out and said, no, I don't need this, please. If you're going to do it for anyone, focus it on the people who actually need it. But guess what? The reason everyone got it was because everyone's feeling the pain, was the spin. Well, 2 days later, we learn that the reason everyone is going to get this, apart from the fact that they're spending billions of dollars so they can create a slogan that every household gets the help, by their own admission, it's too costly to means test it. What does that even mean? The idea that it is cheaper to send a credit to the power company for every single house in the country is cheaper than working out if the house needs it or not. And even the ones who need it, it's so small you don't notice. Oh, and by the way, energy bills are about to go up again. Just 2 weeks ago, this was the announcement from the energy regulator. So even the $75 that's supposed to help you every 3 months is going to be eaten up by what's about to go up in the next little while. Today, news from the economy was more people are unemployed.
And here, unemployment is hotter.
Bit of a surprise jump in unemployment. It rose to 4.1% last month, up from a revised 3.9% in March.
Just 2 days after the federal budget warned unemployment would rise, it has.
Now, apparently this is good for the economy because there's a chance that if there was going to be an increase in the interest rates because of the inflationary spending of the federal budget, there is a chance that that now won't happen. You know, one hand, the other, all the rest of it. In fact, somebody smarter than me can explain it.
Australia's unemployment rate has jumped higher than expected in April, which could be good news for interest rates.
Yes, but that good news for interest rates, it comes at a cost, like everything does. You know, a little here, a little there. If we get where the budget is predicting us to get to, which is a 4.5% unemployment rate, that means between now and next budget, 103,600 people have to lose their jobs. For the government to be able to say, oh, isn't it amazing? We kept unemployment where we promised it. OK, good. Footy stadium of people. More than. That's the MCG. Seriously. All right, I hope you're comfortable because I got a bit on this. Now, last night while we were on the air, I saw that the story which made it to the front page of the Daily Telegraph today had dropped. I heard it in the late debate and I have been waiting to talk about this all day. Because, as you know, Anthony Albanese is apparently getting ready to sell a house in the inner west of Sydney, and a bloke has been living in it for some period of time. He says that this is the reason he was given.
It's so disruptive when you get an eviction notice. I know all landowners are entitled to do that. It just wreaks absolute havoc at the moment. You know, we're dealing with cost of living crisis, probably the worst rental crisis certainly ever I can remember in Sydney. We've got a massive shortage of properties and options are pretty limited.
And that's true. But the reason I decided to talk about this in some detail tonight is because it is the perfect microcosm of what a lot of people face when it comes to the problems of the rental market. That if you're in a rental property, you're just holding on. If the owner decides to sell, which of course they're completely allowed to do, there's nowhere nearby to go and get another rental place. Why? Because you're competing with all of those extra people that in this case, your landlord, has brought into the country over the past couple of years. But I really want to talk about what I think is one of those moments where people who listen to FM radio and love watching shows like Tipping Point, good luck to you. There are sometimes political stories that really puncture and they get it and they go, hang on, what? The leader who's telling me they're so amazing and helping with everything is actually somebody who doesn't care about me and in fact is doing something pretty nasty. On Radio National this morning, the Prime Minister was playing a home game and right at the end, Auntie PK decided to ask the Prime Minister about why he is doing this. And this was his reason.
I have, I think, been a good owner of the property. He's paid around about half what the market rental is. I kept that situation there post-COVID when the rent was substantially reduced. I've had changes in my life.
I've had changes in my life. Now, without getting too personal, if we're talking here about a scenario where the Prime Minister who got divorced a couple of years ago, that's the reason he's got to sell, well, that would have happened back then, right? Instead, his life circumstances have changed. What life circumstances have changed for the Prime Minister that he needs to sell this house right now? He's hardly on the bones of his backside. We know he's got other investment properties, and we all know that he's earning a pretty penny. But continue.
I wish him well, but I am allowed to make changes which are a direct result of the changes that have happened in my life from where I was 10 years ago with my former wife and family.
Yes, but as anyone who is aware of how divorce works, you sell the house while you're getting divorced, and that again didn't happen just last week. But again, I don't know that personal situation. I don't know who's on the bill. But the Prime Minister talks again about his circumstances have changed. Now, I understand why investment property owners sometimes have to get rid of the property because either the interest rates are too high. Wouldn't that be hilarious if it's the reason? But of course, for this Prime Minister, he's earning $500,000. He's living in not one but two houses that we pay for. He's living in the Lodge, a mansion in Canberra, and a mansion that he has to his availability in Sydney. So exactly what is the changing circumstance that means he has to boot the bloke out of the house? Well, other than he wants to sell the house because he wants to do something with the money, which again is his right, but still, of all of the people who make the choice to sell their investment property, the guy who's living in two taxpayer-funded mansions, earning $500,000 with a private plane that you nickname after your dog, is not exactly the bloke who urgently needs to flush people into a rental market that in the inner west of Sydney is even worse than the country average and even worse than the Sydney average, which in terms of housing availability is about 1.7% of all of the housing stock in all of Sydney that is actually available for rent. It is even worse. I think it's about 1.2, 1.1 in this particular area. So he knows what he's doing. He just doesn't care. And I think that's what starts to connect with people. That a bloke who doesn't need to sell this house, instead is just choosing to sell this house, and pushes this bloke out, but again, is the guy who's trying to pretend that he really cares about people like this guy if they were renting a house from anyone else. It doesn't quite match up. This is where the Greens come in.
I've seen some people say, well, this isn't a story. The reason this is a story is because this is a demonstration of who runs this country. We have got millions of renters right now being smashed by a rental crisis, and here you have a property investor Prime Minister leading a party where 75% of Labor members are property investors and 65% of coalition members are property investors, and they're calling the shots.
But there's another aspect of all of this that gives us a little bit of an insight into the true personality of the Prime Minister. The bloke who supposedly was more compassionate because of his background, but you can see a pretty nasty streak because all of this has been made public. We know the Prime Minister can blow up like the best of them. And now the bloke that's in his sights, because he's gone public, is the guy that's going to get booted out. Now he, of course, like a good little lefty, said, I've supported the Prime Minister, I voted for the Prime Minister, but still it's not going to matter, right? He's now embarrassed the Prime Minister, which means you're going to cop it. So there was one thing in the Prime Minister's statement about this bloke that I noticed because it was familiar. It's a very passive-aggressive thing where if you were reading a transcript back to a court, you look compassionate, but it's not.
I wish him well.
You see, it's just a way of saying, see you later. Where have I heard this before? Oh, that's right. Remember when the Prime Minister made the organiser of a domestic violence rally cry, her friends all around her? What exactly did he say about her after she had embarrassed him by calling him a liar?
With regard to Sarah, I wish her well. I wish her well.
Ah, he wishes you well. That's very important, isn't it? No, it's basically, you screwed me over by embarrassing me, so I wish you well, but I don't wish you well. Get away from me and get ready for a pack to start hunting you. And you see, just like when it came to the woman at that domestic violence rally, the Prime Minister's mates in the media, well, they come out in spades to defend the Prime Minister. Remember, despite the fact that you could see the lady crying at the rally, they were out and about telling us, well, if you actually look at the tape, the Prime Minister's actually off the hook. No, the lady's still crying. Remember, even the Prime Minister saying, look at the tape, it exonerates me. Yeah, we have seen the tape of the woman crying. Yet he says...
You can look at it, you work at Sky. Everyone can look at it.
Yeah, we can look at the tape. Here it is again. You see, again, this is what this bloke thinks. This is what this guy thinks. I can just pretend you didn't see it. I wish you well. My life circumstances have changed, so I've got to sell the $1.9 million joint or however much it's worth because I just want the money. He's in 2 taxpayer-funded houses that he assumes he'll be living in for the next 10 years because he's a somewhat popular, as he thinks, Prime Minister. And I've got to say, how did the Prime Minister come up with the I wish him well line and my life circumstances have changed? You think one of the 11 people who work as the personal media people of the Prime Minister would have given him better advice. Like, I'm not going to talk about this publicly. I'm going to ring the bloke. I'll call him later today. See you later, not interested. Oh, no. Instead, because he crossed him, he now wishes him well. Well, thankfully, rather than people being able to see into the real-life actions of a Prime Minister who is not scintilla as compassionate as he pretends to be, the left had something else to explode about. The former Prime Minister met with the former President in New York, and their heads explode! That is the real outrage! That is the real outrage! Aussie stunned by ScoMo's Trump post. SMH, God help us, Morrison cozying up to Trump is weird, but it could soon get even weirder. And okay, lefties, if that photo sent you crazy, one more time, this'll send you loopy. I told the team, just find people running out of the theatre. I thought it was going to be like 1 second. I love how long that went, because that's the explosions. And now, because I, of course, pointed out the media team around the Prime Minister, the narratives, the people that are covering up, we all know what's going to happen now. They turn around and come for us. Well, it's not like we're not expecting it. Quick break. Back with more. We're going to find out who's the winner and loser of the week. We'll debate some of the other issues around. Our panel's thoughts when it comes to what's happening with Peter Dutton's speech and a whole lot more. Nigel Farage as well. Just getting started. Thanks for watching. Paul Murray live on a Thursday. Right, Nigel Farage in a couple of seconds, but right now, a chat with 2 big brain ladies about the issues that are around right now. Emily Dye, of course, works for the Centre of Independent Studies, so always good to have her in the man cave, as is our dear friend Linda Scott. Excited budget week, woo, solved all the problems. And of course, Peter Dutton, in reply, a sign of a horrible Trumpist government to come. What did you think of the response?
I mean, look, if only there was as much vision as Donald Trump has. There was just sort of nothing, wasn't there? No new ideas, just repeating the whole sort of law and order themes that he's been talking about as a Queensland cop since he's been in Parliament for a very long time. Just really nothing new.
Didn't get you there. Emily, what about you?
I thought it was so cautious. I was really disappointed that the coalition has taken such a soft response to the changes to stage 3 tax cuts and those broken promises. I think that they should have come out much stronger and said, hey, actually the wealthier people are being underrepresented. They're being undercompensated for bracket creep. We're not compensating for the bracket creep that's occurred over the time period. And so they're like, the changes are fine. The gutting it is fine. If you're of a certain wealth group, you'll never get a tax cut. You never get to be compensated for bracket creep, and that's okay.
Yeah, but you'll get, $75 every 3 months on a power bill if you're
Yes.
sitting and rolling around your mansion. Now, today, there's on multiple fronts a conversation of Labor MPs and senators that have come forward and said pretty direct stuff that is either in support of protests that have taken place or outright attacks on Israel for its response to what has happened in October the 7th. In the New South Wales example, again, without boring you here, all of the extra jobs, apart from being the backbencher, have been taken away from the one in New South Wales. The senator from Western Australia, well, Albo's waved the finger, but she's very junior and a first-termer, so there's nothing to take off from her. So, Emily, free speech or crossing the line. What do you think of these things?
I mean, I've already outed myself as being very pro-speech. I think that we should be having debate. I think that they haven't crossed the line. I think this is actually shameless plug to the CIS, but we had an event last night that it was using all of the words that are the offensive words. It was John Mearsheimer. He said the genocide word. He said the apartheid word. He said ethnic cleansing. And this is a debate series we're doing. We'll have the other side coming up next month so that both sides can speak. But I think it's really important to let people voice their ideas, especially our parliamentarians, especially people in government. They should be allowed to be vocal. They should be allowed to be bold. And we should combat them on their arguments.
But also, I mean, Linda, there's a responsibility here, right? And the responsibility, I think, is that your ultimate expertise is in the constituency you represent, i.e., as a councillor, I'm an expert in having an opinion about the area that I represent. Do you have opinions about other things? Sure, because you're a human being. But it seems to me that where these people are going to get themselves in trouble, apart from where they land on the issue, is, in my view, kind of way out of their lane, trying to fix intractable problems on the other side of the world, and the response is going to be from their leaders, get back in your lane.
Well, look, I think, as I said to Michael Kroger last week, what Australians want to see is their leaders trying to promote and support harmony, bringing communities together, showing leadership to stop the division. And so I do think these two comments by two Labor members in the New South Wales Parliament and in the Federal Parliament were unhelpful when you've got everyone in leadership positions in Labor governments across the country trying to promote harmony and peace and bringing people together. It's not to say there's not global significant tensions. It's not to say that people don't have opinions that they can't voice. But what people want right now in particular is the promotion of leadership and harmony. I do want to call out, though, Paul, because I think it is correct to say that there is a difference. I do want to call out that in the New South Wales example, Anthony D'Adam, as a parliamentary secretary, is part of a leadership group of the government. He's a man who stood up in the New South Wales Parliament and attacked a female public servant.
The police commissioner, by calling her a liar.
I do think that is especially disappointing, and it's not reflective of the kinds of values that I would want to see in a Labor government.
Well, again, what we would hope is that the ministers, parliamentary secretaries, all of that, well, of course, they're chosen by the leader to be the people who represent their vision for the state or the country. Of course, in the Labor Party, they're given the list of people, and then you have to find jobs for them. So there's sort of factional things on it. But it is interesting that, Labor never breaks ranks. But if you're going to break ranks like this, and particularly in this fashion, we'll all see what happens. I'm liking this speed round, by the way. One of the suggestions being discussed in Victoria at the moment is that maybe they have to get rid of the number of golf courses in Victoria and replace them with houses. What do you reckon?
I mean, you're never going to catch me saying no to more housing supply. That's it. I don't think that that's necessarily the best option. I think we need to reform our zoning more broadly, and it needs to be our single-family zoning. It needs to be upscaled to mid-sized. We need to have more townhouses, more mid-density apartments. The mid-density should be upscaled to high density. I think putting golf courses at the center and making this a big fight in these green spaces may be counterproductive to the people that are wanting to see change. That said, like, I'm not totally sympathetic to the idea of this reserved golf course green space for only people that are able to be members of the club and are of a certain wealthy elite, and that's stopping people from being able to have homes.
Yeah, that's true in terms of private. I mean, the public golf courses, which is in part what the City of Sydney is discussing about whether it's 18 or it's 9. You know, again, I get the golfers, and I know the people are going to be angry at the mere suggestion of this stuff, but I'm intrigued about where the line is between, you know what, every other sport has a space. Funnily enough, golf needs quite a lot of space for its sport, and yes, there's private clubs, but there has to be public access, otherwise it is just, you know, sort of polo in the city, and I don't think any of us want that for our countries, but what do you reckon?
Look, there's nothing that gets people more hot under the collar than a debate about a golf course, and I should know this as a councillor. But yeah, of course, in the City of Sydney, we've worked with the New South Wales State Government basically to have some catch-up on green space. So the Moore Park Golf Course will be halved from 18 to 9 holes. That's a state government lease decision, and that will open up more open green space for the surrounding suburbs in places like Green Square, which are the densest part of Australia. And not just by a little bit. We're talking, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new apartments, 60,000 residents, really dense, and we do need some green space catch-up. That said, just next door in the inner west, we've had a Labor Mayor, Darcy Byrne, starkly oppose the shutting down of a golf course. I mean, look, you'd expect me to say this, Paul Murray, but it's why local governments
I always love when you use my full name.
Good
that's only when I'm in trouble.
It's why
local government are good decision makers.
It's why because
I'm going to say kudos to
because it's important that local factors come into play here, and I don't think there's sort of one international answer about shutting down the golf courses to solve housing affordability. Yeah. Different things apply in different places.
All right, I need winners and losers. Let's go bumper stickers. Who's your winner loser this week?
Winner's probably actually Gina Reinhardt. She's done very well in this budget. The Made in Australia, I think, is really a terrible idea that is isolationist. It is encouraging more mining. We're not having the best people doing the best things. And so we're talking about all of this green stuff. We're talking about...
I think Andrew Forrest is more excited about
Andrew Forrest is also very happy about all of the
amazing.
energy proposals. I think those are our two big winners. The loser is going to be Jim Chalmers. I think this is a budget that is not good for young people. Ultimately, it's going to increase the deficit in the long run, and that's going to hurt young people with the high debt.
Good stuff. Lovely chat.
Look, winner is Jim Chalmers. I think he obviously delivered a brilliant budget, but losers, and we are a bit disappointed about this, are local governments. We were looking for more funding in the federal budget, and we were disappointed to see the government not deliver on their promise of fair increases for local government.
Good stuff. Thank you, guys. Do appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend. Quick break. Nigel Farage is next, and we're going to talk about the Trump and Biden debates. More in a second. The next stop on our Town journey is going to be at the end of this month in Parkes. If you would like to join us, please send me an email tonight to ourtown@skynews.com.au. Big stuff around the world to talk about with Nigel Farage, who joins us now from London. Great man, lovely to see you.
Thank you.
So, Trump versus Biden, not one but two debates. Trump is saying there should be a third involving Fox News. Now, I think there's a lot of reasons why both of them need to be there, but what do you think about the prospect of the clash?
Well, look, last time round we had the first debate much later on. Within 2 days, Trump was diagnosed with COVID. He wasn't on his game. By the time of the second debate, and this is crucial, by the time of the second debate, when Trump trounced Biden, and everyone agreed on that, by then 100 million Americans had already voted. So the value of the big head-to-head debate, this centerpiece of American elections ever since Nixon debated Kennedy over 60 years ago, the effect was diminished. So the timetable, June, September, is perfect. It actually gives both candidates a chance to get their message out before these ridiculous tens of millions of mail-out ballots still happen. The terms are very much on Biden's terms. I mean, it's going to be CNN invigilating. Trump's microphone will be turned off when Biden's talking. And the worst part of it, of course, is no live audience. And that's a shame, because I think, good programmers can get a neutral audience in a studio, and how they react and respond is rather important. So it's kind of a watered-down debate, but it is happening at the right time. I do think a third one later on would be a good idea. But look, from my friend Donald's perspective, this is better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the reason Biden is going anywhere near this or trying to create what he has been able to create about the context of the debate is he's losing. Like currently on the polls, he is losing, and he is losing in enough of the significant areas. And the story of him losing is rolling and gathering more and more momentum. So I think it's legitimately an attempt to change the subject and also to create a whole bunch of sort of get out of jail moments where we're not going to have a conversation about replacing the candidate because there's a debate coming up, and then there's another one coming up, and then it'll be too late.
Yeah, and also don't forget this week, a major speech from Biden about unfair trade from China, or should I say China, and he's going to put tariffs on, etc. Very much, straight out of the Trump playbook. So I think what we're seeing here is a very worried, very frightened Joe Biden. I think you're right about maintaining his position after the convention, which will take place in August, worried that somebody in the party might try and get him replaced at that event. He's in trouble. But I've got a good tip. Excuse me, sorry.
No.
I've got a very good tip. For your viewers, all right? Now, look, I know we're not supposed to encourage gambling, and you can't do it, but yesterday I checked with the bookmakers, and Trump was evens. If you don't bet, fine. If you do bet, I tell you what, boys and girls, it's a great price. I'm on.
I love it. Fantastic. All right. Also, let's now talk about the other thing, which of course is the courtroom. Now, one of the reasons why I think it's also advantageous for Trump to say, yes, I'm in, is because should we get to the result he doesn't want, and a judge has got to work out sentencing, a little difficult to slot somebody when you know they've got a presidential debate coming up rather than just the presidential election in November. But still, Michael Cohen, the lawyer who has told many lies to many organisations, who even Maggie Haberman in the New York Times says has not proven the case that Trump directed or knew how the bookkeeping was working. He's under cross-examination. Again, it happens in a couple of hours.
Yeah, look, I mean, as you say, it's not Michael Cohen lawyer, it's Michael Cohen liar, and everyone knows that. Everyone knows the guy's a liar. He's got a very bad reputation. He's not helping himself, and the idea that Donald Trump, did the books and looked at the minutiae. I mean, it's for the birds. Trump's a big picture guy, and as you say, the case hasn't been proven. There is just about zero chance, whatever the jury find. Just about zero chance of a custodial sentence. It's not registering in Middle America in any way at all. Is Trump flawed on a personal level? Well, everyone knows he is, but they don't care. What they're looking for is strong leadership. That's why he's doing as well in the polls as he is. That's why he is going to win on November the 5th, whatever happens.
Sadly, I've only got a minute to talk about big news surrounding yourself and the Reform Party, but you may well end up just wiping out the Conservatives.
The Conservatives. I remember. That's right. We used to have. Yeah, I'm sorry. You completely nonplussed me there. Do you mean the high tax, big regulation, mass immigration people that masquerade in number 10 at the moment as Conservatives? That's obviously what you're referring to. No. They don't need my help to wipe themselves out. The absolute contempt which a huge number of the British public now view them, after all the promises they made in 2019 on the back of a big Brexit vote that they have actively betrayed, with or without my help, they are doomed.
Good stuff. Thank you, mate. I do appreciate it. The great Nigel Farage, of course, joining us each and every week. That's our show for the week. We look forward to seeing you again next week. We'll be here on Sunday night. Have a great weekend. Go Yankees. Go Tigers.